rain didn't just start. It descended like a heavy, suffocating shroud over the city. It was the end of October, a time when the cold isn't just a temperature, but a living thing that crawls into your skin. The sky was a bruised, heavy purple, and the rain fell in thick, relentless sheets. Each drop hit the asphalt with a dull, rhythmic thud, turning the entire street into a pitch-black, rippling mirror. If you looked closely into those puddles, you could see the neon signs of the city, the bright buzzing reds and electric blues of the bars and shops, stretching out and distorting, as if the city itself were melting into the dark. I was standing under the small, rusted metal awning of the Centaur bar. I had my thin autumn coat pulled tight around my chest, my knuckles white from gripping the fabric. It was completely useless. The wind was a savage, invisible hand that pushed the freezing rain sideways, soaking my legs and numbing my face. "You absolute pathetic idiot," I whispered to myself, my breath misting in the freezing air. "You saw the forecast. You saw the clouds gathering at noon. Why did you think you'd be fine in this?" The silence inside the bar was even heavier than the rain outside. The last of the customers had stumbled out 30 minutes ago, leaving behind that familiar, soul-crushing atmosphere. The stale, suffocating scent of cheap beer, the acidic tang of cigarette ash, and that nauseating, sugary cologne that always lingers in the corners of a room. I had spent the last hour in a trance, wiping down the sticky mahogany tables, stacking the heavy wooden chairs, and counting the money from the register. The sound of the coins clicking against the metal drawer was the only thing keeping me awake. My legs felt like they were made of lead. It was that specific, agonizing fatigue that only comes after 12 hours of pacing, serving and dealing with people who didn't care if you were exhausted or not. Every muscle in my calves was screaming. "Go on, Julie, get out of here," Vasily said, not even looking up from his glass. "What are you doing, standing there like a statue? Your guy is supposed to be here, right? Look at this weather. You don't want to be caught in this if the streets start flooding." He promised he'd come, I mumbled, my voice feeling foreign and hollow. I reached into my pocket, my fingers trembling. I needed a message, anything. I pulled out my phone. The screen was dead. I pressed the power button, held it down, tapped it. Nothing. It was a black glass brick. The battery had given up the ghost right after the lunch rush. Now, in the dark, in the pouring rain, I was completely, utterly disconnected. I closed my eyes for a second, trying to recall the message Andrew had sent earlier, back when my phone still had a pulse. Got pulled into an emergency work trip to St. Petersburg for 3 days. Can't pick you up. Call a cab. I'll transfer you some cash. Love you. The words were sweet, I suppose, but they offered zero comfort right now. They felt like they belonged to another life. It was almost midnight. The rain was hammering down on an empty street on the outskirts of the city. My home was a good 40-minute drive away. The buses ran once an hour, if they even bothered to run at all in this weather. I sighed, a long, shaky breath, popped my collar, and stepped out from under the awning. The freezing rain immediately went to work, soaking my hair and sliding down the back of my neck. I started walking toward the bus stop, my boots splashing through deep, oil-slicked puddles. The street was dead silent. Only a few cars sped by, their tires hissing against the wet road, splashing me with freezing, dirty water. I felt small. I felt vulnerable. The darkness seemed to press in from all sides. And then, as if answering my silent, desperate prayer, a yellow silhouette appeared in the distance. The car was moving slowly, creeping along like it was hunting for someone. On the roof, A rectangular sign with uneven red letters glowed through the downpour. Taxi. My heart leapt. A wave of relief, hot and sudden, washed over me. I didn't think twice. I threw my arm up, waving my hand frantically. The car smoothly pulled up to the curb, its old rusted windshield wipers groaning against the glass like dying creatures. The door opened with a dull, piercing squeak of rusted metal. "Good evening, beautiful. Hop in, or you'll drown out there. Where to?" A raspy, gravelly voice called out from the darkness of the cabin. It carried a slight, hard-to-place accent, something guttural and ancient. I dove inside and slammed the door shut. The interior greeted me with warm, stuffy air that smelled of thick tobacco smoke, old sour sweat, and something else. Something sickly sweet and musty, like the basement of an abandoned, mold-ridden house. But I didn't care. It was dry. It was warm. "Oh man, the weather is an absolute nightmare. Thank you so much. You're a real lifesaver. 45th Street, Building 3, please." The driver nodded, his jaw tight. He shifted the heavy gear lever. The car, a beat-up yellow sedan that looked like it had been salvaged from a junkyard, pulled away smoothly. In the faint, flickering glow of the dashboard, I finally got a look at him. A stocky, heavily built man in his 50s, with a thick black mustache and hair that was graying at the temples. Heavy, cheap-looking rings flashed on his thick fingers. When he glanced back in the rearview mirror, gold crowns glinted on his teeth. His smile was wide, almost aggressively welcoming, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Don't see many people out in this kind of weather," he said, his voice dropping an octave. "Work around here?" "Yeah, at the bar," I answered shortly, trying to turn my head to the window, trying not to breathe too deeply. "Hard work." The driver shook his head, a strange, rhythmic motion. "Drunk folks probably give you a hard time, huh? It happens to the best of us." I stared out the window, watching the familiar streets blur into a watercolor mess. The rain turned everything into a hallucination. Streetlights stretched into yellow, sickly streaks. Storefronts melted into indistinct, glowing blobs of color. "Don't be scared, girl. I'll get you there fast." He smirked into the rearview mirror. His eyes seemed to linger on me too long. Suddenly, the car turned off the main road, heading toward my district, but for some reason, he took a weird, unfamiliar route through dark, deserted backstreets. I felt a spike of cold anxiety. I think we took a wrong turn. "Traffic jam. Road work at night." The cabbie waved his hand carelessly, his voice dismissive. "I know a shortcut. Don't you worry." I nodded, but a dark, freezing knot of panic twisted deep in my stomach. The landscape felt wrong. The buildings seemed to lose their shape, their edges blurring like I was viewing them through thick, muddy water. The familiar grocery store on the corner looked like it was shrouded in thick gray fog, its sign glowing like a dying, flickering star. I stole a glance at him. He sat there, swaying slightly with the motion of the car, his fat fingers tapping against the wheel in a strange, uneven cadence. And suddenly, he stopped talking. A silence so absolute, so heavy, fell over the cabin that my ears began to ring. Without thinking, I looked up at the mirror. In the dark reflection of the back seat, there were silhouettes, vague, blurry shapes, like shadows cast by a flickering fire. They sat perfectly still, staring straight ahead, waiting for something. I turned my head. The back seat was empty, just my purse sitting there. My heart began to hammer against my ribs like a trapped bird. I looked at the mirror again. They were still there, sharper now, like someone was sitting intimately close to me. One figure had its neck snapped at a grotesque angle, Another looked like it was crying, burying its face in its hands. The third just stared right at me from the mirror, and its eye sockets were completely, infinitely hollow. "Are you, comfortable?" the driver asked suddenly. His voice was so close it was as if he was whispering directly into my ear, hot and stale. I flinched, pressing myself against the door. "What? Yes, fine." He smiled again, those gold teeth looking like a predator's snarl. "We will be there soon." But we weren't. Minutes dragged into hours. Hours that shouldn't have existed. Grim, gray monoliths flickered by with hollow windows and crooked roofs that seemed to groan. "Where are we?" My voice cracked, sounding like a child's. "On the road, beautiful." "Where else?" the driver answered, his face turning to stone. "Can't do that, beautiful. Too dangerous." I screamed, yanking the door handle. It felt welded shut. He turned his head at a sickening, unnatural angle. His neck cracked like dry, brittle branches. "Shut your mouth and sit still!" he snarled. I looked down, my eyes wide. Where feet in sneakers should have been, there was something dark and covered in wiry hair. And at the end, not feet, but hard, black, cloven hooves. In that moment, the entire world compressed into a single point of freezing, absolute dread. This wasn't a taxi. This was a cage with the devil. The hammer of realization struck my chest, bringing back the old tales my grandmother used to tell me. "Remember, Julie, demons are stupid. If one won't let you go, tell it. Come back yesterday." It confuses them. They cannot process the paradox. The car tore through a black void. The driver turned around, his spine cracking horribly, his neck stretching out, becoming impossibly long. His smile stretched unnaturally wide, revealing rows of razor-sharp yellow fish teeth. His eyes glowed with hellish crimson fire. Nausea hit me, but I stared right into those glowing eyes and enunciated clearly. Every word a weapon. "Come back yesterday." The effect was instant. His features twisted in wild bewilderment, mixed with pure, unadulterated rage. He jerked his head violently. What did you say?" I repeated it, louder, with all the power I had left. "Come back yesterday!" He let out a roar, an unearthly, soul-shattering sound filled with such hatred that the windows rattled in their frames. The car lunged forward, the cabin reeking of sulfur. I kept chanting it like a mantra, over and over, until my throat burned. And then, a deafening screech of brakes. The car spun out. Silence. We were parked at the same bus stop. I didn't think. I launched myself out of the cabin and ran. I ran until my lungs burned and my legs felt like they would snap. I didn't look back. I finally made it home, locked every deadbolt, and huddled in the corner until dawn. I don't walk alone in the dark anymore, and when I need a cab, I only ever use the app.